Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan calling out Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren when it comes to the corruption that was made apparent the second that they decided to rail against RFK Jr. during his confirmation hearing. They claim they didn't take money from certain places. It became very apparent that they did on X. Took like a second for people to verify, and I'm going to be showing you all that. I'm going to play the Joe Rogan clip first, and I agree with Brett Weinstein when I say that these people are dinosaurs in regards to the way things work nowadays. They don't realize that they can get called out in a matter of seconds. We see them now. Let's go.
The spending on the Chargers, they said that they haven't actually, according to this, they haven't actually spent all that money yet.
What do they do with it?
They've spent some of it to make some of those things, but it's just it hasn't been allocated yet. It's a long article going through all the spending that's been done. It's on factcheck.org.
Factcheck.org. Who runs that?
I don't know. Some of the chargers have been made. Some of them are on the way to be made, and they've built 61 at 15 stations since mid-August, or through mid-August. 14,900 more are currently in some stage of development. But that's where it goes into like where they are, what they have to be done, and who's getting the money from them. It has to be done through a long process from each state.
Yeah, the question is, how can we get a proper accounting? As you point out, who the hell is factcheck.org?
Well, that's the problem with fact-checking organizations. That should really be illegal. Like, I think if you're a fact-checking organization, we should have stringent rules on what influence is being peddled, like who's paying for these fact-checkers, who's behind the scenes, what is the it should be very transparent. How did you determine whether or not this was true or false? Because there are a lot of things that get said. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but Elizabeth Warren got confronted, and it's on Twitter this morning. She got confronted about the amount of money that she's received from pharmaceutical drug companies. She said she's never received any money from pharmaceutical drug companies and never received any monies from any PACs. And then, of course, underneath it, community note strikes again. And, of course, she received millions.
Yeah.
She's a f***ing liar.
Well, and it's an arms race. How can pharma cloak the money that it's giving so that there's plausible deniability at the point that Elizabeth Warren is confronted or Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders was hilarious. Only 1.5 billion. Only 1.5 million out of 200 million. Only 1.5.
Yep, that's what I saw
First
as
he
well.
tried to say nothing. Only the hardworking people of this country gave me money.
Well, I don't think the Democrats understand that it's over, and that there was a vast infrastructure that made their feeble arguments viable, and that infrastructure is now collapsing. People are far more aware, and their lives aren't going to function anymore.
Well, it makes sense now that we're seeing these numbers because, okay, this was what was funding the infrastructure. Now we get it. Because it wasn't – otherwise, it's organic. This is the will of the people. This is how people are moving. It's not. It wasn't that at all. This was all organic, and it was really about control and money. It had nothing to do with helping people, making people better, giving aid to foreign countries. That's all a cloak and dagger show. The reality was it's about money.
Yeah, it's
money and influence.
It's always about power and limited resources.
Yeah.
And this was a new game taking place at a level that was hard to believe, and therefore many of us couldn't see it.
Enormous amounts of money. And this is a real problem. Because if it was just the only way you could win was you had to do for the will of the people. You had to literally do things that were better for the people. The people realize you're doing a great job, and they keep electing you.
Well, let's be honest about what the conservatives had right from the get-go. There are problems that only competition solves. There are other problems that competition in something like a market is not well positioned to solve, but there's certain problems that there's no second best. It's only competition that works. And so when we talk about, what are we going to do for fact-checking? We're going to abandon the idea of fact-checking. What you want is a vibrant, independent journalist sector in which people who spot the story early and people who articulate the story in the most intuitive and accurate way outcompete those who do a worse job, so that over time what we get is journalism that you can't fool.
Right.
And that it reveals to us which government programs actually work, even if they don't sound reasonable at first glance. Here's what's really going on behind the scenes in this program, right? And then journalism that exposes any kind of fraud. And I don't know about you, but as I was watching confirmation hearings, my sense was that the Elizabeth Warrens and the Bernie Sanders were dinosaurs who do not understand that the Earth has just been hit from outer space and that they don't live in the world that they are so used to. That their corruption was immediately apparent. And they're not used to that. They're used to having a whole phony journalistic layer that covers for them.
Right.
And that layer is gone, and the American public is awake, and it's angry, and rightfully so. And now it looks at Bernie Sanders, who, I remember the first time you and I spoke, you and I had both been Sanders supporters.
Yeah.
And now to see that same guy going after Bobby Kennedy, and, the feeble excuse, well, what if Bobby Kennedy becomes the head of HHS and people don't have access to prescription drugs? And it's like, dude, I just lived through. It's not obvious to me that they wouldn't get healthier if they didn't have access to prescription drugs. Do you realize how corrupt those companies are and how nonsensical their science is? The science that says that you actually get better if you take a statin based on some metric in your chart, right? So I'm not arguing that there aren't good pharmaceuticals. There undoubtedly are. But what's the net effect of our pharmaceutical-obsessed medical culture? It's not obvious to me that it's positive. I think it may well be negative. And so anyway, again, I see Bernie Sanders and I see him reading from a script that is no longer relevant to the movie we're watching.
Right, and this is not saying that there aren't some.
Man, that was perfectly said. That and you know what? It's not just Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. It's all of them. They're all reading from this ridiculous script. Like AOC went on this rant. She's like, Elon Musk is the most unintelligent billionaire that I've ever met. And then she corrected herself because she knows she's never met him. And then she says seen. And then she realizes she's never seen him in person. So she says witnessed. It's so silly. And she's just every single person you can think of who is a huge asset to the current structure collapsing. She's just calling them all dumb. Like that's the tactic. Let's just call them all dumb. It's just like JD Vance. Let's just call him weird and he'll go away. Meanwhile, you have single mom energy, house mom energy, Tim Walsh on the stage going like this to people. But JD's weird. It's just so ridiculous. The more you see it, it's crazy. It's almost like I keep the tinfoil Speedo on. You guys know I keep it on. I keep it high and tight, right? And it almost to me is like they're doing this on purpose. Like they want us to know what's going on. Almost. That's what it seems like to me. Like you got to always think, in the movie The Matrix, you ever heard the theory that the Matrix is the Matrix? But that other place that they go to where Morpheus and Neo and all those people go to, Zion, that's underground. A lot of people don't realize that's the Matrix 2. Now, that's a theory. I don't mean number 2. It's also the Matrix. It's just another layer of the Matrix. And the thing coming out and him going down the tube and Morpheus and everything, all part of the Matrix. In reality, he's never been released from that little egg. Like, all of it. That's a theory, but you got to think about that when you're exploring things. You know what I mean? I always say, you got to keep your tinfoil Speedo on, but you always got to keep a pair of slacks nearby too, right? You can't live in the tinfoil Speedo. You're going to chafe. You're going to get rashes. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get real raw. You can't live there. You got to take those off every once in a while, put on a pair of slacks and be a normal person, You gotta be, don't live in the tinfoil layer. Don't live there. Now, let's get to Bernie Sanders. Sorry for conjuring up all those images just now. My apologies. Raw. Why am I saying that? Let's get to Bernie Sanders. This is RFK calling out Bernie Sanders. The guy basically has a conniption. And then we're going to show you the actual... I'll call it corruption because he's saying he's not taking money from certain places and he actually is. I would call that corruption. Let's go.
The American people that you will fight to do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to every single American.
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? That's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry
Oh, no,
and
no,
protecting
no, no,
their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions
know.
and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
Because I had
receiver of
small
pharmaceutical money.
contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
You were the
not a nickel from corporate
Bernie,
PACs.
you were the single largest acceptor of
workers-
pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in the industry.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of
200 million. Listen, it's fine. You understand? It's like a pool of water. You get 1.5 million drops of urine inside a big pool of water. It's fine to drink still, you understand? You're barely even going to taste any of those dollars, you understand? All right, let's jump over here really quick. So what RFK was saying was actually correct. This is Bernie Sanders. He's saying he's never accepted any of that money. Oh, I can't even. Where is it? Oh, no. What's going on here? Oh, it's actually right there. Yeah, there you go. You see it right there? He's actually at the top of the list. I was like, oh, no, I don't have the whole list. I don't need the whole list. He's at the top. And this Raphael person, they're number 2. Elizabeth Warren is right under that person at 1.2 million. So Bernie Sanders 1.9, Elizabeth Warren 1.2, but there's actually more to Elizabeth Warren, so we'll get into that in a second. Let's go right here. This is the video that Joe Rogan was talking about when she got called out and the community notes went into action. Let's watch the video first, very quick.
Big Pharma since 2020. The reason why you don't want RFK Jr. suing Big Pharma?
Sorry, we're yeah.
Is that why?
No, check the website. I don't take contributions from Big Pharma executives. I don't take any corporate PAC money. And you and your allies already know that.
Big Pharma since 2020.
Wow, just so justified. You already know that. Then community notes kicks in and says Elizabeth Warren has in fact received donations from both pharmaceutical companies and PAC organizations in the combined tune of millions of dollars. And then they show a bunch of sites that you can check out. We actually decided to go on those. We went to Open Secrets first. As you can see here, this is pharmaceutical health products recipients. You go down here. Open Secrets is great too. I mean, it's available for everybody. This is not some special website that just YouTubers have access to. Citizens have access to it. That's what it's meant for. Top 20 in the pharmaceutical. Again, Bernie Sanders at the top with 1.4. Elizabeth Warren just underneath him at 822,000. So she actually has accepted quite a bit of money. And even Time Magazine wrote an article about this. Elizabeth Warren condemned super PACs. Now she's benefiting from one. And in that, they had this little blurb here and an ironic twist. Now that makes a Warren, along with the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, has been the strongest opponent of the super PACs in the 2020 campaign. I'm jumping all over my words here. Sorry. The biggest beneficiary of such group heading into Super Tuesday, the most prominent reversal yet among the candidates on the issue of high dollar donations. At one point, nearly every candidate decried the practice before realizing it may be necessary for survival. So it's said that it was necessary for survival because there were some self-made billionaires that they were competing with, so they felt like they had no choice but to go against what they said at the beginning of their campaigns. Political also wrote an article about this, so this is all known. But Brett is so right. They are used to a phony layer of journalism that protects them from this kind of thing, that makes this kind of stuff just go away. And that is the time of yesterday. That is not what's going on anymore. People jump on X. They don't play around. There's community notes. These people are calling it out left and right. Then guys like me make videos. There's a bunch of other guys making videos like this as well. There's no more hiding in that phony layer anymore. In fact, the phony layer looks even more ridiculous because you can literally see a clip of the phony Lair people, the Joy Reids, the Rachel Maddows, etc., saying all the things that they have to say to protect these people. And then you can go over and see some actual information showing everything they're saying is a lie. You know, going to what Brett Weinstein said, he said, we need a layer, we need journalism that can't be fooled. We already have journalism that can't be fooled. You just have to look for it. But if you go to the mainstream, you're not seeing journalists who are being fooled when you see them protecting these people. They're not being fooled. They're not being tricked. They know what they're doing. You understand? I'm not stumbling onto this information by chance. I know what I'm doing. I'm looking for it, and it's not hard to look for it. You guys know this just as well as anybody. Guys, sorry to interrupt the video. You know I don't like to do that, but I just had to let you know that there is another channel that I have. Okay, we have 255 videos, and this is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. We are covering breaking news. We are covering just things that are going on, culture war stuff, woke nonsense, all sorts of stuff like that. So for those of you who have been asking, hey, what's with the big focus on Joe Rogan? Here it is. This is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. Coach Colin Media, link in the description. Let's get back to the video. So just wanted to jump over there and just show this little interaction between Elizabeth Warren and RFK.
The question would be, can I commit
You're
to
not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's keep going. You're right.
Now, this whole thing, this little interaction is crazy because as they go on, she starts to say to him, will you dedicate, will you say now that you will not sue any health companies whatsoever, health companies? And RFK is like, what are you talking about? He's like, of course I'm going to sue those companies if need be. You know, RFK is not an ambulance chaser by any means. So she's trying to get him to commit to not suing any of these drug companies at all. And he's just like, I'm not going to do that. And throughout this whole thing, sadly, you see in this hearing, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are fighting for these drug companies. And if you're watching that, without knowing about all the information I just showed you, you're like, what is going on here right now? But this is why they're fighting. Because this doesn't stop. They're still in positions where they need to be reelected. They're still in positions where they need to campaign. It's just not as big as a presidential campaign, but they still need to do it. And they still need payoffs like this. They still need money like this. So of course they're fighting for the companies. And it even gets to the point where Elizabeth Warren is literally, she's literally making the case outside of the confirmation hearing that she's afraid that RFK is going to bankrupt these companies. That's what she's really afraid of. So in this whole thing, she's like, I'm fighting for the little multi-billion, almost trillion-dollar companies because they might go bankrupt because of this mean and scary RFK. So crazy. But again, the layer is gone. It's almost completely gone. It's still there, and none of us can really figure out why it's still there. You know, those of us that know the numbers behind all of it, we don't even understand how it's still there, but it's still there. I think, tinfoil Speedo, it's a necessary evil, so it just keeps on, well, I was going to say it keeps on getting funded. But Elon Musk actually said recently with this whole USA ID thing, that there's a lot of news companies that are just going to experience a massive drop in revenue since USA ID has been pretty much put on hold with everything they're doing, except things that are like basically life-saving that people need. So maybe that necessary evil will actually get cut off. Maybe we won't see that anymore. Maybe I'll actually have an opportunity to buy CNN. I can't wait. I can't wait. If they put it on auction for like $1,000, I got it. That's mine. $2,000, I got it. $5,000, a little much, but you know, talk to a couple people, you know, I'll get it, you know. But that's what's going on with those two. Brett put it just amazingly that the whole infrastructure is collapsing and they don't even realize it yet. Or perhaps they do realize it. And that's why they're fighting tooth and nail in front of the USAID headquarters. And they're trying to rush into the building and put on all sorts of stunts and make people think that Elon Musk is seizing power somehow. He's seizing the power and taking it away from the people. Maybe that's why they're fighting so hard. But just wanted to show you guys that, I never really liked Bernie. Didn't understand why Joe did so much. I guess, at the end of the day, Joe is a bleeding heart liberal, just like Brett. But I was never into the guy that much. And, Elizabeth Warren's okay, because I liked native people. But then she's not native. So I was like, forget this lady, She was native for a little bit. For a little bit, she was native. But, I don't know. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring you all that information. Really interesting stuff going on. RFK, I do think he's going to be confirmed. A little update on that. He has gotten moved forward. His confirmation is going to Senate. The vote that moved him forward was actually 14-13, with the chairman being the tiebreaker. If it happens again, we're going to see JD Vance end up being the tiebreaker. He's, of course, going to vote for what Donald Trump wants, which is RFK confirmed. So we have to wait and see what actually happens. It's been said that RFK has the votes to be confirmed. Now, this is because they go around and they talk to everybody and they make people commit to yeses or nos. And apparently they've gotten enough people that are going to commit to saying yes to RFK. I cannot wait to see that, because once he is confirmed, he will have say over the CDC, the FDA, the NIH. It's crazy what he will have say over, and it'll be better for all of us. Anyways, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously, and other than that, I'm out.